Finally, like a dream come true, I was at the shores of a great body of water again, and I'll tell you what, as someone who enjoys living on the coast, the Great Lake of Gob Nor, better known as the Sea of Semfar or Bright Star Lake, is a beautiful sight. It glimmers in the bright sunlight with crisp breezes of intoxicatingly fresh air, rippling patterns on the surface. Bright Star is a large body of water that encompasses the western border of Semfar and the southern border of Morgone. I didn't know it at the time, but Morgone was almost nothing like anything I'd read about the place, which turned out to be a good thing, even though it plunged me far too deep into the great game of dragons than I ever wanted to be. My great uncle Krynn would be so proud. Securing passage across Bright Star Lake was not that difficult. I still had things to trade, and there were plenty of sturdy fishing boats and small towns along the shore, but they all directed me to the rough and tumble city of Zendelank. Officially part of the nation of Morgone, it has had quite a riotous history of late, and is currently under the control of a band of pirates, but that will probably change by the time you are hearing about the place. It's that volatile. The good thing about volatile towns, where the cutthroats are in charge, is that the cutthroats are largely concerned with the goings-on of other cutthroats. So keeping a low profile, spending a little coin, staggering your way through public spaces like you're on a booze bender, you're almost invisible to local authorities. You can just do your trade and arrange private passage on a swift ship for a good price. I didn't know that the lake was even more dangerous than the cities surrounding and fighting each other over it, but no more than 6 hours sailing out of Zendelank, and the ship was stopped dead in the water by an extortionate dragon turtle that was demanding the captain and crew pay it money they simply didn't have, or was going to sink the ship. And I was plucking up the courage to speak to the massive creature when I spotted streaking white arrows trailing steaming water behind them, circling the dragon turtle and our ship at great speed in the water. Well out of range of the dragon turtle's claws and fangs, it's let loose a huge blast of steam, but it had no effect on the darting shapes at all, until they suddenly swerved and revealed their draconic heads, blasting jets of super scalding steam right back at the dragon turtle, which it seems the dragon turtle is also quite resistant, but not entirely immune to, and the combined assault of several of these mysterious sleek white and silvery gleaming dragons was too much firepower for even the dragon turtle to withstand, so it plunged down into the deep, and the three incredibly rare pearl dragons just swept past our little ship with not so much as a glance and were gone, just like that. I was astounded. I'd never even heard of more than one pearl dragon ever having been encountered in one location, but I had no way to find out more, or to thank the dragons for whatever inspired them to save our lives. It must have just been sheer spite for the dragon turtle. I did manage to sketch a pearl dragon. They are aquatic nomads, but they still have wings and can fly. The three we encountered all seem to be of similar size and age, large but not huge. Pearl dragons start life around 2 feet long and can end up centuries later as great worms, something like 86 feet long. Thankfully, they are rarely aggressive or violent and have little interest in humanoids at all, and avoid civilization, preferring to live in isolated peace and quiet. Totally self-sufficient. A pearl dragon's head is crested by a row of spines that run from the back of its head all the way to its shoulders, gradually shrinking as they make their way down. A small bunch gather up just under its chin in what looks like a bristly beard. Webbed feet and smooth scales help the dragon swim along with its undulating body and tail. The wings remain folded in tight to the body to increase their swimming speed. A pearl dragon possesses a semicircular throat pouch, also lined with tiny spines down the middle. Their very long snout is stocked with a lot of fangs, and they have quite a lot of bite force. They prefer to hunt for sharks and fish, never eat humanoids, and often gather up hundreds of lobsters to take back to their lair to eat. The scales of a pearl dragon wormling are white and shiny. Its scales become more lustrous and iridescent as it ages, resembling its namesake gem. Its scales are so smooth and tightly packed that it's hard to tell where one scale ends and the others begin, lending even further to their pearl-like appearance. Its scales may also change colour as it ages, usually becoming a different shade of white or cream, though in rare cases the dragon's scales will darken until they become black. Black pearl dragons are considered to be more attracted by others of their kind and are most likely to find a mate during breeding seasons. Have fun with your player characters who assume black dragons are some sort of evil hybrid. An adult pearl dragon has an armor class of 18 and 16d12 plus 64, or between 80 and 256, with an average of 168 hit points. Pearl dragons have a speed of 50 feet per round in the water, but are also very fast on land, moving at 40 feet per round. And despite their love of the water, they do dwell mainly in steep rocky coastlines, or sometimes along sandy beaches, as long as they're near the water. They are agile flyers too, can cover 70 feet per round. Despite being very strong, formidable creatures, like the other so-called lesser gem dragons, the pearl dragons prefer to attack from range with their scalding steam breath and impressive arsenal of spells. About the only time they attack humanoids is when they are actively getting pestered by far-ranging and desperate pirates, or some adventurers who show up, probably by mistake, looking for something else and stumbling across a very rare coastal dragon instead. Aquatic species are more likely to have seen one of them, since the dragons spend so much of their time underwater, hunting for pearls and the marine life that they love to eat. If suddenly and unexpectedly faced with combat, pearl dragons can attack with bite and claws, of course, first unleashing a somewhat weaker form of draconic frightful presence common to the lesser gem dragons, so each creature of the dragon's choice that's within 120 feet of the dragon and aware of it must succeed on a DC 15 wisdom saving throw or become frightened for 1 minute. The creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. If a creature's saving throw is successful, or the effect ends for it, now normally the creature is immune to the dragon's frightful presence for the next 24 hours. Just that dragon's frightful presence though. Bites and claws are both plus 10 to hit. The bite enjoys a 10-foot reach and inflicts 2d10 plus 5 piercing damage. The claws inflict 2d6 plus 5 slashing damage. The slamming with the tail is also plus 10 to hit, with a longer 15-foot reach to the target, which takes 2d8 plus 5 bludgeoning damage. So they have all the basic damage types covered for their physical strikes. However, their breath weapon and spells are more formidable. Recharging a roll of 5 or 6 on a d6, the dragon can exhale a scalding steam blast in the form of a 60-foot cone. All creatures within that area of effect must make a DC 17 Constitution saving throw for half the 12d6 fire damage. Also, note that this works underwater as well as out in the open air. Much like their cousins the Jacinth dragons, the Pearl dragons learn a lot of charm spells and a few spells such as Shape Water and Ice Knife. They can have a lot of utility in the water, but they're not as skilled at spellcasting, only counting as 4th level spellcasters. Their intelligence is 16 and above, so the spell saved DC is 16 and they are plus 8 to hit with targeted spells. Somewhat unusual for such a well-adapted aquatic predator, but like most big marine mammals, the pearl dragons can't breathe water. They can hold their breath for over an hour though. But still, it's quite a limitation that has a lot of bias from fully aquatic species who see air breathers of any kind as having no welcome in their underwater domains. So pearl dragons are just as likely to stay well away from them as they are anyone else in the air-breathing world. As I mentioned, pearl dragons are totally immune to heat and fire. They have 120-foot dark vision and blind sight out to 60 feet thanks to their sensitive spines and very sharp senses. They speak their own language and communicate telepathically with each other. Other dragons and exceptionally intelligent individuals from other species, I should say. They can communicate with each other perfectly well, but since your character will need an intelligence of 18 or higher just to talk telepathically with a pearl dragon, they will assume anyone who can't understand them is too stupid to be worth talking to anyway. I should point out that the intelligence requirement of 18 is for other creatures, not pearl dragons talking amongst themselves telepathically, just to be very clear on that. Pearl dragons are absolutely masters at pearl hunting and know a technique for harvesting wild pearls without killing the shellfish who make them. So they have their own convoluted migratory path they travel over the years along oyster beds, slowly moving from one rich harvesting ground to another. The main reason it takes them so long is that moving all their pearls and arcane study library from one lair to another is a secretive and painstaking process, since pearl dragons never associate with or keep minions such as kobolds and the like. With a sufficiently impressive bribe of pearls and some careful negotiation, a pearl dragon may be persuaded to drive off camps of Sahuagin who are bothering remote fishing villages, but they're just as likely to refuse to take anyone's side unless the Sahuagin are already a bit of thorn in their side. Sahuagin eating all the lobsters in a region is actually all it takes to royally piss off a pearl dragon, but they're just as likely to murder a whole bunch of lobster fisher folk of other races. They don't see humanoids of the land as much different from the Sahuagin or other aquatic civilizations, but it is less likely, much less likely, that they would ever work with the Sahuagin against humans, for example. They just don't like the Sahuagin. Also, they eat a lot of sharks, so the Sahuagin just are not big fans of theirs either. And there are plenty of other species to deal with: the scrags, the mottled worms, Exarchidal, the sea giants, merfolk, sea elves, and kraken. A pearl dragon will establish a very well concealed lair, usually half in and half out of the water. A sea cliff cave with submerged chambers is perfect, and in this space they will tend to carelessly leave their non-pearl treasure just laying about in the open. The pearls will be stocked and stored in a secret compartment closer to the lair's exit. This is in case the dragon needs to beat a hasty retreat. It will always grab the pearls first, but usually leaves other treasures in the abandoned lair, particularly like old books and things. Inside the lair, the dragon can cause water to splash into the cave from the outside or below, affecting an area within 120 feet, making the floor super slippery. Any creature within 30 feet of that point that walks more than 10 feet in a single turn must make a DC 15 dexterity saving throw or fall prone onto the muck and take 1d4 bludgeoning damage. This effect lasts for 1 minute. Another technique is manipulating the water in the lair into a thick fog, same as the spell which the dragon can summon until the start of its next turn. Within a mile of the pearl dragon's lair, oysters are much more likely to produce higher quality pearls. This might be a supernatural effect, it might actually just be the tending of the dragons over many decades. Plus, aquatic creatures, beasts and animals become more aggressive within that 1 mile area, and once per day the dragon can conjure a 1 mile radius sphere of fog that will linger for up to 3 hours, with the same effect as the fog spell. The dragon never does this in its lair or over top of its lair to reveal its location. All these legendary regional effects slowly fade after the pearl dragon has been killed. Coming up next, the jade dragon, another lesser gem dragon cousin, but for now, my name is AJ Pickett. I make videos about role-playing game lore, particularly monsters and exotic planes of existence. Thank you for joining me, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon. Quite looking forward to this next video. The Jade Dragon video has got a lot of information about the nation of Murgome and the Dragon Princes. But I think I'm going to need to talk about that in a live stream as well.